Story 1. I am not sure why, but I have always laughed when people start yelling. There is something hilarious to me about people losing control that badly. It got me in trouble at previous jobs for insubordination, but honestly, I cannot help it. Story 2. I view them as animals. I do not get upset when a dog barks at me. It is what dogs do. Story 3. When people raise their voices at me, I immediately tear up. I am a fragile little person, and otherwise I will match their tone. Walking away is best. Story 4. I am 100% serious about this. You can remain calm and punch someone in the face at the same time. Story 5. Maintain control. Do not let others control your emotions or behavior. Story 6. Smile and zone out until they become frustrated and walk away. Story 7. You do not have to stay with someone while they are screaming. Story 8. Simply remove yourself from the room. Do not say anything. Look into their eyes, offer a soft smile, then turn and leave. You have won and they will burn. Story 9. Imagine they are a toddler since they are acting like one. Story 10. Gray rock. Let them scream, they probably need it. Story 11. I work in the emergency department, so this is my day to day. 1. Practice mindfulness every day so it becomes a habit. 2. Use counting breaths and remain present when a person becomes angry. 3. Know that no matter what you did, being screamed at is never okay. This is their reaction because they may struggle with emotional regulation. Do not take it personally. 4. You are dealing with someone in a mental health crisis, so put your own feelings to one side. Remain calm. If you are calm, you can help lower their level of arousal. 5. Make sure they feel heard. Ask them questions and empathize. Tell them you are sorry for what happened. 6. Once the situation is calm, debrief with a colleague and arrange follow-up for the person. There is no such thing as an overreaction. There is always a reason. They may genuinely need help. Story 12. I was a police officer, so I became used to it. I tried to calm people down or walk away. I never screamed back. It never worked. Story 13. I would walk away and cut that person out of my life. I do not allow anyone to treat me that way. Story 14. A coworker did this once. I turned away and spoke to another colleague. I did not speak to him for weeks. Story 15. I laugh, which usually makes it worse. Then I laugh harder. Story 16. Step back into a bladed stance. Hands up, palms facing out. Shout. I don't want to fight. Back off. Story 17. I refuse to tether my emotions to someone who cannot control theirs. Story 18. Unfocus your mind and zone out at will. Stare at the person's forehead or the space between the eyebrows, then respond with the phrase that is true or another brief affirmative comment when they finish. Keep in mind their tantrum is not important. Do not react. Stonewall. Story 19. I remain silent and hold direct, intense eye contact while singing the ABCs or Happy Birthday in my head. When they finally tire themselves out, I ask, do you feel better now? Story 20. Zone out. When they finish yelling, ask them calmly to repeat anything important. Eventually, they will understand that conversation works where yelling does not. Story 21. Adopt the attitude that you are very disappointed in them for losing their cool like that. Do not respond with equal energy. Show that the tantrum is not impressive. It is sad and pathetic. Afterwards, if possible, look them in the eyes and say, "Can you repeat that? I was not listening." When they are shocked, calmly walk away and say, "Never mind. It was probably not important anyway." Story 22. Just zone out and drown out whatever they are saying. You get used to it so fast. Story 23. I don't care anymore. Laughing out loud. I used to be very agitated by this, but now I can't be bothered. Story 24. Apply pressure to the face with the front part of your forehead. Story 25. Just breathe and let them yell. Do not take it personally. They are showing their stress, not your worth. Keep your cool, stay quiet, and let the storm pass. Story 26. I'm naturally a calm person. If you scream at me, I will likely think you are being childish and would not behave that way. Sometimes it seems silly when people become angry over things that barely make sense. My first experience of being screamed at in public was while working at Waffle House. Occasionally people get angry for understandable reasons, but I live in the United States, and not everyone who is angry is justified. Story 27. I enjoy that my existence bothers them so much it gives them high blood pressure. I pretend to speak softly and just mouth words, and if I figure out their weakness, I exploit it. Story 28. I walk away, to be honest. No one screams at me. I grew up being screamed at almost hourly, so I do not tolerate that behavior anymore. Story 29. Laugh at them, then laugh even harder when their face turns purple. Story 30. I work in behavioral health and had a client screaming nose to nose, calling me names. The entire time I was picturing Heath Ledger from Batman saying, "Hit me." I knew even if she went to jail, she would be back. But it would have been satisfying. Story 31. I honestly wish I could learn to do this when my girlfriend has a meltdown and goes off at full volume in my face. It would be so very effective in shutting her down and defusing the drama. Story 32. In my experience working in healthcare, the best way to handle this is to respond in a completely emotionless tone at a normal volume. Often they want to provoke a reaction, whether it is to make you scared or to provoke your anger. Deny them both and remain calm. Some people suggest laughing at them, which may work in some situations but could also result in physical harm in others. Story 33. I don't stay calm. I yell and walk away. They never expect it, so they are in shock and cannot do anything. Story 34. I withdrew into myself and waited for them to stop. For example, I came to work and my office was full of smoke. It smelled like burnt rubber, and a utility column ran up through my office. I opened a window and told the building manager in case there was a fire. A few minutes later, the man in the next office slammed open my door, stomped in, pounded his fists on my desk, and yelled threats at me for several minutes. I just stared at him. He eventually ran out of steam and left. The smoke came from him. He had been smoking in his office instead of going outside. The office manager had called him, knowing he was an addict, and he responded by attacking me. I told the human resources manager across the hall. She shrugged and said he had not touched me, so there was nothing to report. Story 35. I grew up in an abusive household and experienced abuse daily. As a child, it terrified me. Now, as an adult, if someone does it to me, I look them dead in the eye and laugh as if they just said the funniest thing ever. I have only done this a few times, but it usually stops them in their tracks. Story 36. Point to the area under their nostril and tell them they have something on their face. Look disgusted. Story 37. I was in the army, so being yelled at was an everyday occurrence. Drill sergeants were in your face constantly. You get used to it quickly, and it teaches you how to control your emotions. I went in knowing I would be yelled at, so I focused on staying calm no matter what. In civilian life, it is different. I have had difficult people, homeless people, angry neighbors, and others yelling at me. The trick is to stay calm. Sounds simple, but it works. Control your breathing, keep your tone neutral, and do not speak or act until you are sure what you want to say or do. Always assess the situation. Is this person dangerous? Are you in a position to walk away if things go wrong? That awareness helps a lot. If someone is confrontational, stay quiet. Do not argue. Arguing fuels them. Staying calm and silent makes you the bigger person. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. At the end of the day, it is all about control. Control your emotions, your words, and the situation around you. Do not react immediately. Story 38. Why not? If a dog is barking at you, do you try to understand the bark? Outside, the birds are singing, the cats are yowling, the foxes are screaming. It is all noise. We also make noise. We just call it language. Story 39. Stay calm and do not react. Remain polite to them unless you have already walked away. People who do this want a reaction. Do not give them the satisfaction. Story 40. Leave or avoid the situation and the person as best you can. I do not know about you, but I tear up when I get angry. My adrenaline starts pumping and my knees begin to shake. I literally cannot help but cry and yell. So I become very mindful. I stop talking or engaging with the person and get away so I can cry alone. Story 41. Personnellement, je fais la sourde oreille en chantant Mozart. Story 42. Give them a little kiss. If they are getting in your face, that is probably the reason. Story 43. If he must scream, he does not know how to properly express it. This indicates a feeling of superiority. Story 44. Try to see inside their eyes or the finer details of their forehead. Story 45. Simple. Laugh at them unless they are in your space. Then it is a different story. Personally, I would never let someone get in my face. I have a bubble, and once you enter it in a threatening manner, nothing more will be said. I will act to protect myself. People who get loud and act out of line usually are not serious. Someone who truly wants to fight will not run their mouth. Never let anyone in your face or disrespect you. And always secure your personal space. If someone enters it aggressively, defend yourself. Story 46. Just tune it out. If they have escalated to the point of screaming, there is nothing productive to be done until they stop. Keep a mental note of what you were saying before they started yelling, and when they have quieted down, pick up where you left off. Story 47. I realize that only mentally unstable people scream in other people's faces, and I feel sorry for them and their mental illness. Story 48. I usually laugh, which causes two outcomes. They become even angrier or they stop acting stupid. Story 49. I know that when someone is yelling, their asshole twitches. It just makes me laugh. Story 50. I was yelled at a lot as a kid. I would just go inside my head and tune it out. Story 51. Know your boundaries. Know what you will and will not tolerate so there is no room for uncertainty. Define your boundaries and decide how you will enforce them when your treatment does not align with those limits. Consider whether someone shouting in your face is a threat. There is a reason the person is acting out. Ask what made them lash out. Could be gaslighting or manipulation. Remain in control of yourself instead of letting others dictate how and when you respond. Story 52. I try to empathize and recognize their current emotional triggers. I consider their situation, intentions, and motivations. I remind myself that breathing and remaining calm are the most rational and safest ways to prevent escalation and allow me to process anything unexpected. Story 53. Stand up and stare them in the eyes. I'm a big man. If they think they have what it takes and a good dentist, they are free to keep going. Story 54. I do not? Why would you let someone scream in your face? That is disrespectful as fuck. Story 55. I find the situation ridiculous. Very few things would cause me to scream in someone's face. And on the rare occasions it has happened, it was over something trivial. I used to work in retail and would get yelled at for the most absurd things, like being out of the 14.5-ounce cereal box and only having the 18-ounce in stock, or a favorite bread no longer being carried. I once had a full-grown man have a meltdown in my face over one of those fruit pies in a pouch that tasted different. How else can you react but laugh? What kind of person gets that angry over that? If anything, I felt sorry for him. Story 56. Remove yourself from the situation if necessary. If you choose to stay, a good start is to say you seem very upset and then say I want to understand. If they do not stop, you do not have to engage. Story 57. I ask myself, where is this coming from? It helps me remain calm and focus on the reason instead of the behavior. Story 58. It really depends on what they are screaming about. The screaming does not mean anything to me. I can walk away. If they are touching me or trying to prevent my exit, then we have a problem. Laughing my ass off by. Story 59. I ignore them with a slight smile. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and worlds in my brain pan. Story 60. I don't. I have a nervous grin that always escalates situations. Story 61. It depends on the situation. Is it a friend trying to tell me something over a concert at 125 decibels? Or a complete stranger in a library? Story 62. I let the old monkey in my brain keep crashing his cymbals. Story 63. I shut down and cry afterward. That usually happens once they stop yelling and I reach the restroom. Story 64. I just walk away. I have no time for someone else's breakdown. I need to protect myself. Previously, I would just laugh. It would anger the other person, and I became afraid things might turn physical. Story 65. Why do you care about the opinions of someone who cannot regulate their emotions? They are just losers. Laugh in their face. Story 66. I hope it is not a family member screaming in your face, but I still would not tolerate it. I got in a shouting match with a driver who looked me in the eye in a residential neighborhood, then pulled out in front of me and brake checked me. I honked in a New York City kind of way and he got angry. Do you think I am actually going to fistfight you because your tiny dick got butt hurt? He called me names. I do not feel the need to let anyone scream in my face, at work or anywhere. If you are a kid, I feel bad for you because you do not have much recourse, but as an adult, no, you are going to respect me. Story 67. The only person currently screaming in my face is my 6-month-old, and she is impossible to reason with. Sometimes I blow on her or take her outside. That usually does the trick. Story 68. A friend of mine said, I don't like the food they serve in jail. I laughed so hard at that comment. I still think about it and use it regularly. Story 69. In over 60 years of living, I have never had anyone scream at me, let alone in my face, except at military boot camp, where it was expected and I ignored it. I have no idea what I would do. Story 70. I yell in a friendly way, a bit louder, that it's impressive they think the loudest person is right. I fill the gaps between their shouts, repeating that the loudest is right, and I smile at the person causing trouble. Story 71. I hear a high-pitched whistle in my ear, and one of us then wakes up on the floor. The walking away thing happens too, mostly. Story 72. If people start insulting me, I dissociate because their argument is no longer valid if they must insult others to prove a point. Story 73. I would start laughing. It's a weird reaction I have when I see someone's face all screwed up. Story 74. Listen to what they are saying, not how they are saying it. Story 75. You get used to it after a while. At this point, I can't hear anything unless someone is within a foot of me. Story 76. If it is the boss and I messed up, I accept it. If it is not, hold eye contact and quietly tell them that if they want to speak like that, they should take it outside. Yelling back makes you look just as bad. Story 77. I don't allow people to treat me like that. Stand up for yourself or you'll be doing Biff's work all your life. Story 78. I remember that they are not screaming at me. They are screaming at the person they see me as from their past. Story 79. Don't let them see that it affects you. At work, I would make it clear I'm not listening or doing anything if you yell at me. If they push it, I'll make it known I'm going to use violence if they go too far. Story 80. Look at their eyebrows and disassociate their voice. Then be like, oh, okay. Story 81. When you realize you are being yelled at by an angry human skeleton covered in skin, it becomes silly. Story 82. Anticipating a calm response will upset them even more. Story 83. I always find it funny how foolish they look, and I let that be my main emotion. Story 84. The only people who scream in my face are children I am actively teaching not to do so. In that case, I make sure they cannot harm me physically, wait until they calm down, and then ensure they understand there is a better way to get what they need. Story 85. Sing, Who Let the Dogs Out, in your head, or out loud and bust a move if you're feeling it. What were you screaming about again? Only we can make ourselves feel. The person screaming at you is making themselves angry. Story 86. Difficult. I am not sure I can manage it. Stay silent and take slow, even breaths. Do not hyperventilate. Look as if you are trying to understand but are not quite comprehending. Ask them politely to repeat themselves. If they speak louder and you still do not understand, clear your throat and say, sorry, I missed that. Could you say it again a bit louder? See how many other people are drawn in. Story 87. Do not put yourself in a situation where someone is screaming at you. That is not typical adult behavior. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.